Being in Asia and a melting pot like Singapore, where we have cultures and laws of three major races in Chinese, Malay, and Indian, and being highly accessible to Asian horror offerings from the likes of Southeast Asia and East Asia on regular basis, I will try to do multiple shorter reviews of horror movies from Asia from the past to present in a more concise manner. To start the ball rolling, we have Kuasa Gelap from Indonesian director Bobby Prasetyo from 2024. Known internationally as Dominion of Darkness, the movie touched upon the second biggest religious group in Indonesia, Christianity, which we rarely see in horror movies from the country. This is a movie about demonic possession and, as usual, a question of faith by the characters. We have a prologue when we see a young priest, Thomas, was involved in a grievous traffic accident when he lost both his mother and sister, leading him to have his faith wavered. With flashbacks in the later part of the film, it seems like Thomas was en route to be groomed as a pastor before he became despondent after the accident and was going through motion as a religious teacher. Little did Thomas knew he was to come face to face with a life-changing case of a demonic possession when one of his students and a close friend of his sister died, a young girl by the name of Kayla, in hope to summon her late father to cause a rift between his widowed mother Mia and her fiancé Dennis. Through a wretched summoning session went wrong with a voodoo doll from a classmate Sila. What transpired was a classic travail of the possession taking over the life of the victim and the episodic trauma the family was experiencing. The church was alerted and recruited the anointed exorcist, and Thomas was roped in when it got personal. This was a classic presentation of the turmoil of a demonic possession and the ordeal of the exorcism process. Tropes like the crosses on the wall turning upside down and the mimicry from the demon still worked, generating the scary mood. I like that there are still tatters of a localized law during the summoning session at the graveyard. Hot on the heels of Dark Nuns, this was another interesting insight of the concept of exorcism with an Asian point of view. There was a template from those Hollywood productions to follow, yet there was some innate local flavor that came through to spice things up. The jump scares Bobby Prasetyo employed worked a treat in a few instances, and alert viewers might pick up subtle visuals the filmmakers purposely put in. Looking through the IMDb page of director Bobby Prasetyo, he seems like a prolific director of the horror genre. Since his debut movie, Bunda, Kisah Cinta Tu Kodi, he made 4 features in 2024 alone. In his movies like Tech Hut and Pamali The Corpse Village, it was apparent that he had been doing horror movies of the Muslim domain and lore before doing a solid one about Christianity in this movie. The production value, I would say, is top brass. I really enjoyed dwelling at the various locations like the church or monastery, as well as the cave-like church where the various characters would visit regularly. The details in the rituals, like the exorcist box, was something to marvel at, and the special effect was not too shoddy as well. While there was always some predisposition of acting performances in this part of the world, I thought the cast did a great job overall and none too distracting. Maybe a shout out to the young Lias Sia Rachel in the role of Kayla. She was not going to measure up to Moon Woo Jin in the role of the possessed victim, but based on her short acting career, I think she did a nifty job. What Kuasa Gelap encompassed was not something we had not seen before, but an Indonesian movie about demonic possession and the Catholic faith. For me, this was the first. I'm awarding the movie a 7 out of 10. From Jakarta, let's travel northwards to the Pearl of Asia, Hong Kong. The Sleep Curse, or Satmin, from the year 2017, told a story of a family curse when a wealthy man had lost his ability to sleep before meeting a gruesome death. Like a hereditary disease, the sleep curse has spread to the man's son and daughter. The daughter would seek help from her former squeeze, a neuroscientist, Lam Sikka, to solve this incurable disease. Lam is a man of science, yet he was baffled by things that could not be explained using logic. Therefore, he sought religious help to uncover the history between his family and that of ex-girlfriend's family during the Japanese occupation of Hong Kong during the Second World War. As the medium brought Lam back to the 1940s, where people were living in fear and immense hatred towards their Japanese intruder, Lam's father, who was half Japanese, conveniently assumed the unwanted role of a translator, which sheltered his family including a young Sika, from harm and misery during this period. The senior Lam would assume the role of Oscar Schindler to help people one at a time, as many as he could. That was when he met this pair of twin sisters from a family who knew witchcraft and black magic. As the Imperial Army was sending the girls into the brutality as comfort women, the senior Lam panicked and quickly saved one of the sisters. The unfortunate twin sister would endure a fate worse than death, and with her last gasps of breath, she would accumulate all the hatred and grievance in her to create a sleep curse to be cast on the people that were responsible, who happened to be the grandfather of the ex-girlfriend of Lam. The flashback to the 1940s took a whole chunk of the second act, and by then, the real horror elements were mainly the atrocities by the Imperial Army. That doomed twin sister got a scary eye, and when she passed on, her spirit would haunt the Lam household, who at that point included her own sister, who had married the senior Lam, and the young Sika had been badly petrified by the haunting. So at this point, I was thinking what really qualified this movie to measure up with director Herman Yao and actor Anthony Wong's collaboration of the most controversial movies with the likes of 1993's The Untold Story and 1996's The Ebola Syndrome. Then it came with the ultimate fate that befell on both Lam and the ex-girlfriend, who he had kept in his lab very much as a lab mouse, to explore her brain's functionality as she slowly grew delusional from the chronic lack of sleep. The final scene was truly why Herman Yao could be up there as a filmmaker that could create the most obtrusive content for general audience in Hong Kong cinema. Beside these Category 3 films with Anthony Wong, Herman was famous for the Troublesome Night series as well. Perhaps I could talk more of this horror franchise in the future. But across 4 decades, Herman Yao had directed 80 plus movies that encompass comedy, action thriller, and of course horror, winning many accolades and awards along the way. Legendary actor Anthony Wong was a chameleon on screen, with a myriad of roles he had been cast in. In The Untold Story, which based on the horrific 8 Immortal restaurant massacre, he was a killer who lost any slice of humanity. Across the years, he had been a gang leader, a well-respected police inspector, a serial cab driver killer, and even a kung fu master like Ip Man, but had never seen Anthony Wong cowering in fear in front of Japanese soldiers whom he was towering over. I loved his performance as the older Lam in the flashback, but Anthony swore off making such disturbing movies after this. Although The Sleep Curse seemingly showed more composed direction from Herman Yao and more seasoned performance from Anthony Wong, it lacked that raw disturbing vibe as compared to those movies from the 1990s. It is still worth a watch, but just do not make those comparisons. This is a 6 out of 10 for me. We will stay in Hong Kong, but travel back a good 25 years to 1992. In 1987, director Toshiaki Kawajiri and his anime studio, Madhouse, will adapt the novel Wicked City Blackguard by Hideyuki Kikuchi into a memorable, ultra-violent anime feature. Famed Hong Kong director Sui Hak would acquire the rights to make a live-action movie called Yu Sao Doshi, The Wicked City, directed by Peter Mark. A prologue of a charming electronic salesman who was about to go through a salacious transaction with a sex worker in the city of Tokyo, only for the revelation that the woman was a monster in human's clothing. These monsters, known as raptors, would be in an internal conflict with the humankind, which it was not clear if they devour human beings for food or otherwise to begin with. The salesman turned out to be an agent of the anti-raptor department from Hong Kong, and a duel ensued. Eventually, we got acquainted with this group of law enforcers who would be involved in stopping the distribution of a performance-enhancing drug for both the raptors and the human population, which they linked to a renowned raptor businessman, Daishu. While the raptors were personified as the force of evil and naturally the antagonists of the movie, Daishu upheld a strict set of principles and was keen to forge the link with the human population. Little did he know that someone close to him would betray him and create total havoc in this wicked city. The storyline certainly sounds absurd and seems to go all over the places, but it would work in the anime context, and when translated to a live-action movie, it can get a bit clunky, and although I could see the effort of the filmmakers to create a coherent story, it still felt like it was a bigger hoop than they had imagined to jump through. If this movie was made in America, it would be classified as a campy B-grade feature, yet I felt that Sui and his film workshop wanted this to be a legitimate blockbuster action thriller. A movie that this reminded me of, with the similar horror anime influence, was 1988's Peacock's King, based on the manga from Makoto Ogino starring Yuan Biao. While Peacock King was a joyful walk down the memory lane and was celebrated by audiences from all over Asia, the same cannot be said about The Wicked City. That said, I still enjoyed the stylized filming of the movie, giving it a cyberpunk feel which I think encapsulated what the source material was trying to project. I certainly did not like the characters saying their lines over the action set pieces. When the characters were far apart in the midst of the chaos, they could still converse like they were beside each other. Perhaps this was just a filmmaking technique of the time period, but it got incrementally distracting for me. I would say part of the movie's success would be make or break with the makeup effects, and the final result worked for some, like when Jackie Chan's character Ken had turned into his raptor form, while the others were not that amazing. The final battle between Daishu and his enemy felt very amateurish, but at least they are using practical effect there. One raptor assassin was able to assimilate into any machinery and was even turned into a motorcycle at one point, which was a sight to be behold. The movie boasted a decent cast, with two of the four heavily kings of the pop music scene back in the halcyon days, with Leon Lai as our protagonist Taki and Jackie Chan as his troubled partner Ken. I really like Ken's predicament, a half-breed between a human and a raptor who was constantly being maligned and suspected as a turncoat, yet was trying to help our protagonist although he was a walking time bomb. Famous pageant queen Michelle Reyes played Windy, a raptor who got romantically linked with Taki. I really had no patience with the continual interactions between this beautiful couple, be it romantic or platonic. Renowned martial arts choreographer Yuan Wuping, who would gain international fame for his works on Matrix and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragons, assumed the role of the stoic Sergeant Kayama, who led the Hong Kong anti-raptor force. There was a recognizable face in Roy Chong, who carved his name in memorable antagonistic roles in movies like Prison on Fire and the Young and the Dangerous series, so seeing him you immediately knew who is the big bad in the movie. They even managed to get the service of the legendary Japanese thespian Tatsuya Nakadai, who was in the mother of all J-horror with 1969 Kwaidan. In the role as the majestic Daishu, he got those eyes like a falcon. The Wicked City was always a movie that fell out of rotation in those classic Hong Kong movie channels. Perhaps the premise can be a bit alienating to the general audience, as well as those sexual references. There was no real gruesome visuals nor horrifying jump scares to scar young children, just a movie where you could see a lot of efforts being put in by the people involved, but to critics, it could be like a hot mess. Perhaps fans of Leon Lai and Jackie Chan might hold it in a special place in their hearts. The Wicked City feels like a 6 out of 10 movie for me, watchable with a bit of nostalgic fun. If you like the start of my new Asian featurette, please give me a like on this video. And please subscribe to KK's Horror Heretics if you have not done previously. My previous review was Drew Hancock's Companion, which was a frontrunner as a surprise horror hit for me in 2025. Watching the trailer for Wicked City OVA, perhaps that is an uncharted territory I can introduce to this channel.